Hello and welcome back to Pikes Peak. This is the third video I've done tackling the hill climb that is Pikes Peak. The first two were in Australian supercars, one old one and one new one. I'll pop the links down in the description in case you haven't seen them, but I thought, hey, why not do it something in a little bit silly, something that was certainly not made for the bumpy and not grippy road track that is the Pikes Peak hill climb. Why not do it in a Formula 1 car? Now, the Formula 1 car I chose was the very iconic McLaren MP4-20, which was used in the 2005 championship season. Now, normally you would see me do this video live, tackle it on the way up in the corner and calling out as I'm experiencing it, but this time I thought I would do something a little bit different and stimulate your brain ball by ramming some facts down your ear hole about the car, basically, and that championship season and all the rest. So kick back, relax, enjoy my trip up. It's a little bit quicker than the previous ones by about 2 minutes. Really tough track, and let's just say it wasn't my first time trying it. I'll put some bloopers in at the end so you can all have a laugh at how frustrating this was. I'm so glad to have got it done. Hopefully you enjoy the video. Remember to leave a like, hit subscribe if you're new, but for now, let's get on with it. So, the McLaren MP4-20. Actually, before I get into that, if you haven't seen my previous Pikes Peak videos, it's worth mentioning that this hill climb has very little grip. Even in an F1 car, there's a lot of slide. The track's also very bumpy in places, especially in the tight hairpins going up the pass. In fact, you'll probably notice me taking some weird lines, and I generally stick to the outside of the hairpins because the bumps are so severe on the inside that the car just sort of bottoms out, or you either understeer off, or you just the car spins almost unannounced. I'm also not a pro at Pikes Peak. I'm still very much learning the track, and to be fair, there's 156 corners to learn, but whilst I do feel like I'm getting better, there are still a few spots I'm kind of flying blind, especially further up the mountain where I have less practice as I reset every time I bin it. Anyway, about the McLaren. As I mentioned before, it's from the 2005 Formula 1 season and was driven by Kimi Raikkonen and Juan Pablo Montoya. It was actually also driven by Alex Wurz and Pedro de la Rosa, who were fill-in drivers for Montoya when he missed a few rounds due to injury. The chassis was designed by a couple of blokes most F1 pundits will know very well, Adrian Newey and Paddy Lowe, plus a few others. It was powered by the Mercedes-Benz F0110R, which was a 3-litre naturally aspirated V10. Actually, it was the last V10 engine Mercedes made for F1, as in 2006 Formula 1 moved to the V8 engines. In my opinion, whilst the V8 engines did still have that awesome and iconic scream, I just don't think they, or perhaps any engine since, has ever quite made sweet love to our ear holes like the V10s did. Anyway, I don't want to digress too much into nostalgia, but I guess that's probably why a lot of you are watching anyway, right? Now, this engine was both good and bad. It produced 694 kilowatts of ball-tearing power, which is 930 horsepower in old money, and it was actually the most powerful engine on the grid that year. So, of course, with Kimi in the peak of his career and the most powerful engine on the grid, he was easily able to go on and win the World Championship. Except he didn't. Unfortunately, the big grunty donk had some reliability issues. When it worked, it was brilliant, and steering Kimi to 7 wins that year and Montoya to 3. But despite McLaren winning more than half the rounds for the year, Alonso in the Renault won 6 and his teammate Fisichella won. Additionally, when Nando wasn't winning, he was generally on the podium or just off it. Kimi, on the other hand, finished off the podium 4 times and had 2 DNFs. So after the full 19-round season, this unfortunately left Kimi and his MP4-20 in second place. Renault also won the Constructors' Championship that year, which was certainly helped by the Mercedes' unreliability, but could also be blamed on Montoya struggling to come to terms with the car in the first part of the season, plus, the stand-in drivers that were brought in for a couple of rounds. So why is this car so iconic? Well, is it? Really? I often see its picture shown or listed amongst iconic F1 cars, and beyond the Senna era cars, it was the easiest McLaren F1 mod to find for Assetto Corsa. So why this car? I'm genuinely interested to hear from you down in the comments. Tell me why you think this car is so popular, or do you totally disagree with that notion? It's not the last McLaren to win a Constructors' Championship. That was the FO110G from back in 1998, and this one didn't actually win the championship. And it's not like it was the last time a McLaren had success. I mean, the whole V8 era was fairly decent for them. It even included an actual Drivers' Championship win in 2008 with Lewis Hamilton. Even if you're a huge Kimi Raikkonen fan, and a lot of us are, it was certainly peak Kimi in a McLaren, and definitely a lost opportunity for the Finn to win the championship. But I mean, just 2 years on, he won his only championship in a Ferrari. If I had to make a guess, I would simply say it's because it's the last, and therefore the latest version of the V10 era. I mean, I think anyone that's followed F1 long enough looks back lovingly at the V10 engine and the unbeatable noise it makes, but that's all I got. Maybe it's not iconic. Where did I even get that from? Anyway, like and subscribe, I guess? Look, it's a cool car from an awesome period of F1 and does feel lovely reliving that on a sim. So how does it feel on the Pikes Peak Hillclimb? Well, I mean, I've got to say, this track, at least this version of this track on Assetto Corsa, really wasn't made for Formula 1 cars. As I said before, the bumps were pretty aggressive, and I did set the ride height on this car basically as high as I could without losing too much sort of handling feeling, and I still just bottomed out everywhere. It was both easy and hard. So the first two videos I've made doing this, they were both in Australian supercars, and they're big, heavy, high horsepower cars with not a lot of grip. So you spend a lot of time fighting oversteer. You know, the back end wants to step out, and you're really just muscling the car up the mountain. The Formula 1 car obviously was a little bit different. Whilst it is slippery, it still had a lot more grip than those cars, and the reason it was hard is because you had a lot less time to think about it. It kind of tested my knowledge of Pikes Peak a lot more than the previous two cars did, and I actually attempted this quite a lot. At the end I've got a bit of a bloopers reel which has got maybe 8 or 9 clips of me failing. The stupid thing was that isn't even all of them. There was another long video I recorded first, and I was getting frustrated, and I ended up just deleting it, taking a break, coming back and starting it again. But yeah, I actually invested quite a bit of time into trying to do this, and it's not that the car's harder to drive, it's easier. It has a lot more grip and a lot more poke, but the track, like anything I would imagine, as soon as you get in a Formula 1 car, everything moves a lot faster. And yeah, I'm trying to remember 156 corners and, you know, keep it together and be accurate, and you've got to remember where you are. So it was kind of tough because you've got to be good, you've got to be accurate, and overall it was a pretty messy lap. I made a heap of mistakes. There was one I actually nearly ran straight off into the corner, even on this, which was probably my best run. It was kind of tricky, but it was fun, and I presume that the real life Pikes Peak actual hill climb these days is a lot smoother. They've probably resurfaced it. I mean, if you look at some of the hill climb monsters they send up this, they are high downforce, they are low to the ground, so it has to be smoother than this. Unfortunately, this is the only version of the Pikes Peak hill climb I've been able to find for Assetto Corsa, so by all means, if anyone out there knows a later version of this, or a different version altogether that might be a little bit smoother, I would love to know. I think there is a version as part of this download that came with dirt as well. Obviously I don't want that, I just want to stick to bitumen. The other thing is, if you have any cars you would like to suggest, you know, I'm having quite a bit of fun just doing these random Pikes Peak videos, and I'm more than happy to discuss the car itself or why it's significant or what have you. So if you have any cars or anything crazy, trucks, whatever you want, that you would like to see me point up the hill and have a crack at it, please let me know in the comments. I will be more than happy to do it. But hopefully you have enjoyed this video, you've got something out of it. That is going to end there, so thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for the bloopers.